Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. A lot has been said, and I expect a lot more will be said about the department's interaction with members of this body when it comes to oversight. But this is not about me. Madam Secretary, it's not every day we have a cabinet member before this committee. As you know, the members of this committee have constitutional oversight responsibility for your department, and there are many things regarding this administration's Homeland Security policies that require our immediate attention. That is the work I am here to do today and every day. Secretary, this committee and the American people deserve answers for the actions of the Department of Homeland Security under this administration and the policies that have been put into place. The department has overseen a regime of cruelty, chaos, and deep disregard for human dignity, all under the pretense of security. The department is being mismanaged, and its policies undermine our nation's values. This does not make us safer. The exact opposite, exactly. Secretary, we need answers about your department's union busting at TSA, deporting U.S. citizens, terminating the legal status of international students for no apparent reason, and disregarding the rule of law. None of these issues at your department exist in a vacuum. In fact, they are all fundamentally connected to the administration's overarching cruelty. We want to hear from you because we are hoping you can make it make sense for us. Because with all due respect, we are all trying to understand why in the world this is taking place. In my district and around this nation, countless international students had their visas revoked without due process, without warning, and without any regard for how this would devastate their lives. These are students who came here to learn, to build their futures, and join our workforce, only to have the rug pulled out from under them by this department's actions. How can we expect international students to trust our institutions and contribute to our economy when we treat them like they've done something wrong just because they are here? Are we no longer the home of the American dream?
And here's where things get even more alarming. Because if you thought the visa revocations and union busting were bad enough, what comes next exposes an even deeper breakdown in accountability. This is the moment where Kristi Noem's answers stop even resembling answers, and the contradictions in her department's actions become impossible to hide. McIver isn't just challenging policy anymore. She's pulling the curtain back on an entire system, operating without transparency, without compassion, and without the basic respect Americans should be able to expect from their government.
I also want you to understand DHS's impact on our entire workforce. I proudly represent over 1,000 dedicated TSA workers who had the right to unionize. But that right has been stripped away by your department. This is an attack on the people who safeguard our skies and whose dedication we rely on now more than ever. And the destruction doesn't stop there. I represent communities that live in constant fear each and every day. Families too terrified to step outside and send their kids to school, go grocery shopping, or take a trip to the doctor because of the harassment of ICE and Homeland Security. This isn't public safety. It's state-sponsored fear. I understand that this administration believes that it is its business to scare people into submission and act alone with no regard for the law to decide who is worthy to live in this country or not. However, it is this committee's business to make sure your department is held accountable and to get the American people the answers they've been looking for. So, with that, Madam Secretary, I have a few yes or no questions. Do you agree that revoking student visas without notice can cause fear and confusion among international students? Yes or no?
Congressman, I do not.
Congresswoman, but yes or no?
Congresswoman, I do not decide legal status or visa programs for
I'll take that
as
a yes. Do you support restoring full collective bargaining rights for TSA employees? Yes or no?
Ma'am, currently today TSA does not have the
yes
ability
or no?
to unionize.
Okay, take that as a no. Do you believe that TSA workers should make a livable wage? Yes or no?
Yes, TSA workers are critically important to
Thank
our
you for
security
that. Are
systems
you
for our
aware
airlines.
that recent student visa revocations occur without due process or proper notification?
Ma'am, I don't make a determination of status.
Yes or
the
no?
Department of State does
I'm guessing
that.
you don't know. Okay. Do you believe that TSA workers have the right to better workplace conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
TSA
great. Thank you for
workers are
that.
incredibly
Do you
important
believe
to
that
us.
students should have an opportunity to appeal before their visas are revoked? Yes or no?
All processes are followed and that are set out as tools.
I'm guessing
and
it's a no. Okay,
processes
one
in
more
which
last question in
Congress-
9 seconds. Do you believe that that revoking collective bargaining rights for TSA workers affects their morale and job performance? Yes or no?
I believe TSA is critically important.
Okay,
in
I'll
the
take
future
that
and
as
they have
maybe
been-
you don't know, maybe it's yes or no.
Gentlelady's time has
That I
expired. I
would-
now
that
What we witnessed was more than just a clash between Kristi Noem and Rep. LaMonica McIver. What played out was an illustration of two fundamentally different visions of how a government should treat the people under its authority. McIver wasn't simply asking questions. She was drawing a bright, unmistakable line between accountability and the kind of unchecked power that thrives on fear. Her tone, her insistence, and her clarity emphasize something often lost in political theater: the real human consequences of policy decisions made in Washington. When McIver pressed Noem on visa revocations, she was pushing back on a practice that cuts deep into the lives of international students who come here not as threats but as contributors. The United States has historically been the #1 destination for global talent: researchers, engineers, medical students, young minds who lift the competitiveness of our entire nation. Visa revocations, especially when done broadly and without transparent criteria, send a chilling message, not just to those students, but to the institutions that depend on them. McIver's point was that this isn't just immigration policy, it's national strategy. It's about whether the U.S. maintains its position as a global leader or isolates itself with fear-driven decision-making. But McIver didn't stop there. She went straight to the heart of something even more concerning: the dismantling of collective bargaining rights for TSA workers. This was a vital moment because TSA officers are the very backbone of our aviation security. They protect millions of travelers every single day. Yet the administration's decision to weaken their collective bargaining power doesn't just hurt morale or disrupt working conditions, it compromises national security. A workforce that cannot negotiate fair hours, fair pay, or safety standards is a workforce that is more stressed, more exhausted, and less effective. McIver connected the dots. Stripping rights from workers isn't strong governance, it's short-sighted and destabilizing. And then there's the fear-driven enforcement tactics. McIver called out what she described as state-sponsored intimidation, the kind of tactics that push immigrants, even those with legal status, into the shadows. When ICE enforcement becomes more about optics than targeted, evidence-based operations, the result is chaos. Families afraid to send their kids to school, workers terrified to show up at their jobs, victims too fearful to report crimes. Ironically, the chaos created by such policies actually makes communities less safe. McIver took aim at the contradiction behind Noem's rhetoric. You cannot claim to be promoting security while implementing policies that erode trust at every level. What makes her commentary stand out is that she stayed rooted in the idea of dignity, something rarely discussed in these hearings. Her argument was that government must protect people with equal measure of strength and humanity. This wasn't about political points. It was about the belief that democratic governance means respecting workers, welcoming lawful immigrants, and grounding enforcement in fairness, not fear. McIver framed Noem's actions not just as policy disagreements, but as a warning sign. When cruelty becomes a governing philosophy, democracy begins to erode. And that is exactly why this moment resonated so strongly. It exposed the deeper ideological divide, one side pushing a narrative of chaos to justify aggressive crackdowns, and the other insisting that strength and compassion are not mutually exclusive. McIver's questioning forced a hearing and the audience to confront a hard truth. Policies that disregard human dignity eventually come back to destabilize the very systems they claim to protect. If you're watching this and want more breakdowns that go beyond the headlines and into the real impacts on everyday people, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for ongoing coverage that doesn't just repeat what happened, coverage that explores what it means and why it matters.